What is good, YouTube, and welcome back to the Marsh Consulting channel. In today's video, I'm basically going to explain to you probably the most important concept you will ever learn when it comes to like scaling your dojo and stuff. So without further ado, let's try to get into this. So what you basically have is yourself right here, right now. Please ignore my awful drawing and that the left arm is way longer than the right one, whatever. So you have your current self, and let's call your current self version 1. Let me just put this like this. This is version 2. This is your current self. Whatever you live your life, you run your school, and currently you're making 5k per month with your school with like an, I don't know, let's say 70% profit. So what's that? 3k roughly. Don't quote me on that. 370% profit. So this is your current life as of right now, whatever day you're watching this. Now, obviously, you will have a desired self, and your desired self, let me actually make sure I draw them. Your desired self may look like this. Your desired self, oh my god, this drawing is really awful today. Let me get into it in just a second. Anyways, this desired self is basically making I don't know, let's say 25k per month with a profit margin of like, I don't know, let's say you have more employees by then and stuff like that, so 60% profit or whatever. Let's just make this hypothetical. And obviously, you in your current position, you are kind of, if we're being honest, if I remove the head up a bit, you in your current position are obviously unhappy, because otherwise you would not be watching this video. Let's actually try to draw a nose here. Looks alright, whatever, you get the point. You're basically unhappy, and if you would be your new version, whatever, you would probably be relatively happy. So let's draw you happy up here, and basically let's call your new version 2. So, and trust me, I'm getting somewhere with this. Just keep on watching. So you have obviously, if we just do one thing real quick, if we just close this and then put this like actually on there, style like this. Alright, so we basically have version 1 and version 2. Now the question is obviously, how do you grow from version 1 to version 2 of yourself? Well, because you may be like, well, cool, Emil, I have version 1 of myself, which is unhappy, my current self, whatever, and then I want to be version 2 of myself, which is happy, whatever. How do I actually grow into that version? Now, for that, let me actually try to draw an arrow out right here, something like this. Obviously, what needs to happen is that you need to become like a different version of yourself. You need to grow from version 2 you need to grow from version 1 into version 2. Now, what needs to happen for this? One thing is clear for this to happen is we obviously need something called time. So let's just say this right here represents time. Let's try and draw this out a little more beautiful. Let's try and and then we have, so this basically, this looks fucking awful. Please don't quote me on this drawing, whatever. But basically, let's actually just remove this. Let's just call it let's just call it T for time. I think that's more than enough for this illustration here. And let's just actually write this out. So you need obviously time. Now, that's the number one thing you need to grow into that version. But then the question is like, well, you've lived for, God knows, 30, 20, 40, 50, 60 years already on this planet. So it's like, well, why am I then not automatically growing to version 2 of myself? Because if you just let time elapse, let's say from version 2 to version 1 into version 2, you let like 3 years elapse, you probably won't be at version 2. You probably will be at like, I don't know, maybe 10k, maybe 7k per month, whatever. So, but also the other thing is like, you don't know how much time actually needs to elapse until you are at version 2 of yourself, right? Like, there are certain actions, which is the second point. Yeah, you need to put obviously cause into effect to grow into version 2 of yourself, right? So you make like action reaction, because Otherwise, like if you just close your dojo down and expect to be at version 2 of yourself in 3 years, it doesn't make sense because your school is closed. But if you take the right actions, then you will obviously get the right results, right? So which is where we kind of get to the second point. We need obviously cause, and we need let's just put this. We need cause, which then creates an effect. Yes. Now, it's cool. You probably know what actions you need to take. I don't need to tell you what those are. I think that's never the issue, that you don't know what actions you need to take. I think what is the biggest issue here is that we are missing some big component right now. But before I tell you about that one, no, I'm not gonna sell you anything or whatever. I just want to tell you, you need to basically like yeah, time is important, but for us as human beings, it's not really tangible. Like it just goes on and on and on. There's this great book from Seneca. What's it called? Back there, it's called On the Shortness of Life, where he talks about like at some point time was just started and it just goes on and on. So you kind of need to have like this stoic mindset towards it, which is like, yeah, like just time continues. Like the sun is gonna rise tomorrow, or whatever, right? So like unless you die, touch wood here, or whatever happens, you will live in the future. Like you will be alive in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right? Now, because of that, what we can basically do is we can use this to our advantage, and we can just remove time, and we can just be like, what if we just take the right actions over a long enough period of time? What if we just create the right cause for a long enough period of time so that we create the effect? What if we just remove the time frame? Because what this does is that it basically gives us the opportunity to not be like, I want to be at version 2 of myself, so 25k per month within 2 years. And then if after 2 years, no, you're not there and you're disappointed because you're not there, you're going to be like, fuck, I knew I wouldn't get there, blah, 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 blah. And then it's going to be like, you're gonna just fall back into a trough, and then you maybe even regress in a worst case scenario. And it's kind of like, nah, whatever. And, but maybe you would have been there after 2 years and 3 months. And just because you expected to be there after 2 years and you're not, you're just giving up already. You're closing down your school, whatever. You get the point. Well, let's say you expect yourself to be there in like 10 years and you're already there 3 years. Well, 10 years, it's like, is that really realistic? But it's like, it doesn't really make sense, right? To set a time frame. I hope you get my point here, because the chances that you actually select the right time frame for when you're going to have achieved version 2 of yourself, that doesn't really make sense. Like the chances are so low. Like you may be lucky if you guess it right? But unless you actually can do like the math and can actually play it out, right? Then maybe do it. But I would say for 99% of you, just ignore the time thing and just be like, yeah, time is gonna have to happen, but let's just ignore the time thing and let's just take the right cause for a long enough period of time so that the right effect will come to fruition. And basically, the cause is obviously you doing the work and growing your school and taking the actions to grow your school, whatever. If that means running ads, it means running ads. If that means teaching really good classes, it means teaching really good classes, whatever it is. And basically, the effect is then version 2 of yourself. So what we can basically say is that version 1 of yourself needs to take action in order to create the cause. So version 1 of yourself is basically causing. So let's put it this way. And then what happens with version 2 of yourself? Version 2 is obviously living the what was that? Living the effect. Because if version 1 of you is doing the right actions, then you will grow into version 2 of yourself, and version 2 of yourself is then living off of the effects of version 1. Now, obviously, if you're at version 2 of yourself, you'll grow into version 3 and then whatever, 4, 5, 6. But I'm going to cover that later. For now, it's just important that you basically need to focus on the right actions, and you need to focus on causing, like taking the right actions, which will get you to the right cause, which will then get you to the right effect, which is obviously version 2, blah, 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 blah. I've mentioned that often enough now. We're missing one important component though, and that is, and you may have realized this already, what we need to do in order to grow into version 2 of yourselves, we need to kill version 1. So version 1 basically needs to be removed psychologically. I'm not talking about like You know what I mean? You need to basically just do it psychologically, right? Like I want to make this really clear here. And but psychologically, you need to grow, like update your software, so to speak, from iOS 15 to iOS 16, whatever you want to call it, right? And you need to update your internal software from version 1 to version 2. Obviously, outside of yourself, like maybe your body will change a bit or whatever, but that's a different story. And if you want to kill your current self, psychologically, obviously, I think I've mentioned it often enough now, you obviously need to take the right actions to get there. But, I mean, what happens when you try to kill an animal? It will obviously fight back and it will scream at you and it will be like, nah, I don't want to die, blah, 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 blah. If you would be like in a cage with like 15 tigers or whatever, and they're all really, really hungry, you would obviously fight for your life. Obviously, you know, you probably wouldn't survive, but you would still just not give up. It would just be your instinct to survive, right? Because every human, or like every animal or whatever has like a survival bias. So like everyone just wants to survive and reproduce. Like it's kind of the goal of us on this planet here. And therefore, if you try to kill like an animal, it's gonna kick up a fast. Like it's gonna really fight back at you, right? And if you want to kill like yourself psychologically, like your current self, then it's obviously gonna fight back because like your ego, your current self, obviously doesn't want to die because you're living in the Western society probably, and you're like your life is comfortable, whatever. Like you can afford food, etc., etc. So why should you worry about growing, right? So which is why when we try to grow ourselves, and which is why no one actually gets success these days, or which is why success is so rare, is because no one is willing to kill their current selves and endure the pain and suffering and like the kicking and screaming that your current self will do to you when you have to grow into version 2 of yourselves. And we can basically call this resistance. Instead of kicking and screaming, so our current self will just give us resistance, which will basically stop us from achieving our goals. And resistance is just like every negative thought you have of like, it doesn't work out, every doubt you have, every whatever it is you have. So your current self is basically fighting with resistance to stay alive. So let's just put a little R in here. And let's just actually put it fights with resistance. And if you give into that resistance, or you give into the doubt, or you give into the thought of watching Netflix instead of working more on your ads or whatever, then your current self will just stay alive, and there can be as much time elapsing as you want to. You'll either regress if you just give into resistance, or you will stay at where you're at, right? And you'll never grow into version 2 of yourself. But luckily, your future self basically fights with pain and with the right effort. So it fights with suffering, with just continuously taking the right actions and then achieving your goal, so to speak. So version 2 of yourself, I think we can all agree on fights. Fights with P stands for pain. Because if you don't give into that resistance and you just keep on leveraging your current self, like you will obviously feel pain. Like if there's resistance and you meet it with effort, this basically creates pain. And what this basically does is it will, over a long enough period of time, if you just go through that pain for a long enough period of time, it will just suffocate your current self. And basically your future, your version 2 self, whatever you want to call it, will have come to fruition, and you will be inside of that state, and then you won't feel pain anymore. Well, you'll probably feel pain again, because then what will happen is that you will create version 3 somewhere up here for yourself. But that's like, then obviously once you achieve that, version 4 and so on and so forth until you die, and because otherwise your life is just gonna get boring. But like basically you what you have to do is you just need to stay in the suffering, so to speak. You just need to just realize, all right, I feel resistance right now. Okay, I'm gonna just not give into it, and I'm just gonna meet it with effort. I'm still gonna do what I have to do. And basically you can't really turn resistance off, because if there wouldn't be any resistance, then there would be no way to achieve your goal, because you wouldn't know if you're achieving your goal or not. But if you feel resistance, you know your current self is dying and growing into the new version of yourself. And also, like, one thing that's super important to mention, like, once you get to up here, so let's say you're like 1.5 years in, and like after 20 months, 24 months, whatever, like after 2 years, you would have achieved version 2. Like, once you're really, really close to, like, the closer you basically get to version 2, the harder it's gonna feel. Like, the more resistance will come up, right? And that's when you especially have to keep going, and you just, because if you then, what will basically happen if you then like just give into resistance, whatever that means for you, you'll just get set back to the start, and then you can just go through all of that again. If you, for example, change your business model, or you think your school is not going to work out and you quit, or whatever. And yeah, that's basically I feel like this concept has basically completely changed my life. I hope it with this video kind of helped you change your life a bit more, and you kind of feel like a little more confident in what you need to do to achieve your goal. Like, as long as you just go through pain, like you will achieve your goal. Like, don't worry about like all of the technical stuff. You'll figure that out. But yeah, hope you found this video helpful. If you want more students for your school, check out the first link in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.